What's up, everybody? Jason from Jason's Exotic Reptiles. Today, we're going to talk about 5 rookie mistakes people seem to always make.
Oh, no, that's rabbits. That's rabbits.
Yeah, okay, I get it. It's a rabbit.
Oh, look, a bar of soap.
If you're new to snakes or reptiles in general, you've got to avoid these mistakes. But before we dive into the mistakes, let's show off this awesome guy right here. This is a Sunglow leopard, and they're still quite rare. Still out there. I actually have Sunglow leopard motleys right now that are just ridiculous looking. I'm still tempted. They're on my website right now. I may pull them down because I really want them. But this girl right here is just a ridiculous looking orange, only going to get better as she grows. The belly is just crazy looking on the other side. And so I don't stress her out too much. We're going to put her back while we go through these. Make sure you focus on these so you don't make these mistakes yourself. Diving into the top 5 rookie mistakes. The first one I'm going to go into is just having the wrong setup. Now, the wrong setup could be completely wrong for the species, but a lot of the times it's because it's not used to what you are keeping it in. So something I always encourage newer keepers to do is ask the breeder or the seller what they're being kept in right now. These are young animals. They haven't been established for a long time. It's actually specifically important for young animals is that this animal might be month, 2 months, 6 months of age. And if it's kept in something smaller, I would always recommend that people, they put it into something larger, they give it a lot of clutter. If they put it into the same thing, they just try to mimic what the breeder or seller is doing. This gives you the best chance of the animal eating properly, shedding properly, doing things how it was prior to the sale. Many times people would get this tiny snake that's being kept in a smaller grow-out enclosure, and then they put it in this massive enclosure with this big hide, a water bowl, and heat, but they also use different bedding, they use different lighting, different cages. All of that combined just adds too much stress, and it can usually stress the animal to the point where they don't want to eat or they're just not thriving anymore. Another one setup related is, are you using the right heat? So I always recommend under tank heating with cages. Most of the time there's overhead heating with bulbs. Nothing wrong with either. You just want to make sure you're getting the right temperatures and the right hot spots for these animals to do what they need to do. Many times if an animal is not feeding and everything else is good, it may be stressed because it can't get enough heat to feel like it can properly digest. Many times people will take a temperature and they'll say this is perfect for where it should be, but where the animal is preferring most of its time because the hide is there, under there it's actually a little bit too cold. Or on the other side, it might be too warm. So make sure you have your temperatures. And the last one is humidity. This is species specific. It doesn't really throw off things like boas and ball pythons too much. But if you get into some of the more exotic species, Brazilian rainbow boas, green tree pythons, emerald tree boas, those high humidity species, they either keep it too wet or you'll keep it a little bit too dry. I have found in my experience that most people tend to go too wet, which can lead to a lot of problems with fungus growth and different skin conditions. So make sure that you have the right cage, the right heating, and the right humidity. That will take care of your setup. The next, and probably one of the more common mistakes, is feeding and feeding mistakes in general. So we're all excited. We want to get these animals eating. Sometimes people feed too much or not enough. They're afraid to overfeed or they just want to grow the snake really quickly. So that can lead to two ends of the spectrum. Always ask the breeder what they recommend and follow that schedule. If you have questions, that's what they're here for. You should be able to communicate with them and learn from them so that they can set you up for the right path of success. Also related to feeding is a lot of the times these newer keepers are eager to try to feed live. Now, sometimes live is necessary, but if you keep that animal on live too long and you don't switch to frozen, what you might have as a great live source right now could become really challenging to get as the animal gets older. Many species will switch to frozen no problem. However, there are some where if you feed them live, they're going to continue on live. So it adds this unnecessary risk. There's a whole live versus frozen debate. I actually have a video on that, so we won't dive into it. But this unnecessary risk and then potential to find challenges in getting that food could lead to a future failure of now I have an older animal and I can't find rats for this thing. I had mice and I can't find rats. Or the rats are getting super expensive where I'm paying 3, 4, 5 times the price for a live where I could have just been on frozen now, and it starts to become discouraging. So get it to frozen as soon as you can. Ask the breeder for help. And also do not push the prey items. In the process, specifically when you have an animal that eats live, there's not a lot of sources out there to get live. So people will tend to feed a little bit larger than it should. It can lead to regurgitation, or they're trying to push the animal's growth by feeding it something larger, which also leads to regurgitation. And feeding in general is a whole rookie mistake that really get your hands around feeding, because that's going to set you up for good success. This next mistake probably should have been number 1, but it is handling too soon. Getting a new animal in, we're all super excited. I am still excited myself, but you need to resist the urge to handle this animal too soon. I always recommend is get the animal in, give it a good check, 5-10 minutes, look the animal over, make sure it's healthy, even if you purchase from a show, and then put it into its enclosure. Give it a full week, no interactions. Pretend that's an empty cage. Don't even change the water. Literally do nothing. Leave that cage alone. Then after a full week, try offering prey. If it doesn't eat, contact the breeder, assess what the problem is. This is something I encourage. Every breeder and every place that you purchase from might have a different standard for this, where some may say you're on your own and others may hold your hand and walk you through the process. But my goal is to always get 2 consistent meals in the animal before any heavy handling occurs and really any significant interaction. And this could be even just picking the animal up and holding it for 5-10 minutes. I want to make sure that there's 2 consistent meals. I know the animal was eating when it left me. I don't know the environment it goes into. So if it doesn't eat, I usually recommend people give it another full week hands off and try again, then we reassess. But if you're handling it every day, or you're nervous and you're changing the enclosure every day, you're in there kind of always checking under the hide to make sure the animal's there, it adds multiple factors that I don't know what's actually stressing the animal out. All I know as a breeder is it ate when I shipped it, and I can't actually assess the problem. Is it the enclosure? Is it the heat? Is it the humidity? Is it the handling? Is it the constant stress of checking? I don't know. So we actually have to start over from square one, and forcing that handling too soon puts you further behind than if you just left it alone. Once you've had 2 consistent meals, you know the cage is good and everything's great. If it goes off feed again, we can assess why, what factor changed. Only thing that would have changed is now you're handling. Maybe you're handling too much. Well, we can pull back on that. So overhandling or handling too soon is absolutely one of the most common rookie mistakes that I see. The 4th rookie mistake, and maybe one of the most frustrating to me, is the impulse buy. Now, I've impulse purchased all the time. I still do it. It's something that is going to happen, and it's unavoidable. But when you impulse buy, it's really important to consider how you do it. Are you actually set up for this animal? Is it something that you can easily set up? If you are all for it, it's somewhat of an impulse buy, but you've been thinking about it in your brain and you can't get it out of your head, then maybe it's not really an impulse buy. It's more of just I wasn't expecting to buy this specific animal today. But if you know how to care for it and you can get that setup ready right away, I wouldn't necessarily classify that as an impulse buy. I would say an impulse buy might be more of, I see this wild-caught emerald tree boa at a show. I know nothing about emerald tree boas and even less about caring for wild-caught animals, but it's $350 and it's beautiful and I'm going to go for it. Then in the next week, you're scrambling to get the cage set up and you're trying to figure out how to care for an emerald tree boa. Then that's something that I would always avoid. And many times those impulse buys are from people who have either little to no reputation, or you have put little to no research into that person. I always hate when I see people purchase animals from these kind of shady sellers and then they're scrambling because the seller's nowhere to be found. They don't know how to care for this animal and they're just setting themselves up for failure all around. It's even worse when they buy something wild caught, because that really is a very advanced animal to care for, and ultimately the animal ends up dying on them. So don't impulse buy unless you're actually ready to purchase that animal. You know how to care for it. If you don't have a cage, it's something you know exactly how to set up, or the seller can set that cage up with you, tell you exactly what to buy, give you a list of what to go for, and really give yourself a chance for good success. And absolutely never impulse buy a more exotic species like a green tree python, emerald tree boa, or anything wild caught in general. And always ask the breeder and ask the seller, look online, see, is the price too good to be true, specifically on those exotic stuff. Many times the sellers who have these wild caught animals will tell you they're captive bred or they're captive born. but they're not. They're wild-caught imports. Anything imported with wild-caught animals or wild-caught locations, it might as well just be wild-caught. So just avoid it. Resist the temptation. They're beautiful animals. Look at them in the show and let the seller take that one back home. You're not rescuing that animal. You're not saving the day. You're just setting yourself up for failure and disappointment in 3 to 4 months when the animal is no longer with you. The fifth and probably the most important one we're going to talk about is overall neglect of the health of the animal. And this isn't necessarily just purchasing the animal that's not healthy, but neglect to do the proper quarantine. I always encourage people who even buy from me, go through the quarantine protocol. It's not because I have animals that need quarantine, it's because it's a habit to get into. And once you start making exceptions for one, you'll make exceptions for another, and all of a sudden you have mites everywhere, or you start seeing respiratory infections start to pop up. So make sure you're following proper quarantine protocols, and it's just a good habit. You have to get into it, or you're going to have a problem in the future. Whether it be this animal or the next one, something's going to happen. Mites are going to pop up, respiratory issues, and you're going to hate your life. So follow those quarantine protocols and make sure you stick to them. You have to get into the habit of it. I could certainly go through 25 more rookie mistakes, but I think these are the top 5 that popped into my head and ones that I think people make the most mistakes on. I want to hear from you in the comments. Are there mistakes I miss? Is there something you agree with, disagree with? Let me know. So drop it in the comments. I read and respond to almost every comment. I at least read them all. And till next video, let's keep it moving.